My name's Sam Taylor and I'm here with Tim McCourt, and today we're talking to animator and director Alex Grigg. Is that a good way of describing you?
Yeah,
animator,
sure.
Director?
Illustrator as well?
Nah, I kind of stopped. I kind of decided not to focus on that because it drove me nuts. Like, I would put as much energy into an illustration as I would into animation.
Right.
And there's no money and there's like no time to do that.
Really? Because I always think there's more money in illustration.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the illustrations I was doing, I freak out a lot when I do it.
Right, okay. Prefer to just draw more illustrations.
No, I draw a lot. Right. But usually they turn into moving things.
Right, okay, yeah.
And you do art direction as well?
I guess a little bit. I've been trying to move into that more and more as like a stepping stone. I guess art direction is kind of an official title, but I think it encompasses a lot of things that I enjoy, which is design and storyboarding and finding a nice way that everything fits together, like locks in together, which is what I really enjoy. Like, I'm not particularly good at any one thing that I do. Like, I'm not like a star at any of those things, but the thing that I really enjoy is finding a nice way to click them all together.
I kind of feel like the term animator is increasingly getting used to describe a combination of skills anyway. Like
absolutely,
storyboarding and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Alex has just won the ADC Young Guns award. Is that right?
Yes, you did. Wow. That was. Thank you.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, I got. I went to New York.
Really? Did they pay for you to go out there?
Sorry?
Did they pay for you to go out there only?
To quote the wonderful organisation, they're a not-for-profit organisation. So,
yeah.
But they did take very good care of us while we were there.
Oh,
they
cool.
gave us a free bar.
Wow.
But I got really drunk at the after party and I lost my award. So it's
No, did you? What did they do this, man?
it's like a glass cube with my name like lasered into the core of it.
Oh, you
and it's gone.
But I mean, if anybody discovers that, it's not like they can put it on their mantelpiece, is it? It's got Alex Grigg in there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know why you put someone else's trophy on your mantelpiece.
Did you contact the organisers?
Yeah, I did.
Nobody found it.
It was weird.
That's annoying.
Someone's taking it home to their mum's.
Yeah.
Your name scratched out. And a bit of like Sharpie over the top of it.
It was a really cool trophy actually. It was done by a design studio called Grand Design, I think.
So it makes it all the more.
Well, no. Well, all I was going to say is it's kind of a cube, and this isn't really radio. Maybe it is theater of the mind, but it's like this glass cube, and they've got like lasers that like put little dots. And the only way to see what's written is to look at it completely front on.
Oh, cool.
Because it's like offset, 3-dimensional.
Like those portrait cube.
It's like that, but if you turn it 90 degrees, it says something else.
Oh, really?
Because you sort of see it, you see the depth of those things as sort of offset in different places.
Cool.
So yeah, it was a really cool design, but it's gone now. So I guess so I don't need to look like a jerk with a trophy on the mantelpiece to show off to friends.
Because our film got into a couple of festivals, and I remember we got into one festival which I won't name, but it was like a pretty shady sounding festival. There's so many of them, right?
Yeah.
Once you've been in a couple, people start contacting you, and then you start coming across all these like the West, Norwich International Festival of Creative Arts.
Oh, don't.
Norwich.
And this one festival contacted me, and they were like, if you want to buy awards, like these are how much they cost.
Yeah.
At the end of it, so they apparently screened us. Apparently, I don't know really hear very much about it, or didn't see any photographic evidence of this thing. But they were like, and you can have an award if you want. You just have to pay £100 or whatever. And since I got that, every time I go into a production company and they've got all their awards behind the desk in the front, I always think about that festival and the fact that you can buy. Was it you who was telling me?
What?
That when there was a production company that you worked at, when you walked in through the door, they'd line up all the
it was an advertising. Sorry, we're not interviewing you here.
No, I've got things to say about this too, so I want to hear you finish your story.
Yeah, I was told that this advertising agency, when to win kind of big clients or to impress them when they walk in, they put all their awards on the front, like say on anything front facing as you walk in, so that when they walk in it looks like they've just won heaps and heaps and heaps.
Yeah.
And then when they were walking out, they removed all the awards to be front facing as you walk out, so it just looks like they just got shitloads of awards.
Wow.
And so like I suppose it's kind of handy just to have loads of awards, because no one gives a crap where they're from, I suppose, unless they're like a gold lion or whatever.
Yeah, I saw the Annecy crystal this year. It's like, it must be really hard to tell like from a distance, unless you know what the crystal looks like. There's no way you would know.
Yeah.
I actually, when I was in New York, we did Airbnb, and I stayed at this lady's house, and we came in, and on her bookshelf was an Emmy.
Really?
Like an actual Emmy. It was crazy.
Whoa.
Wow.
Do you know who she was?
Her name was Susanna, and I don't know. It looks really old.
Surrender.
Yeah, but it was like an Emmy. It was an Emmy for news and documentary making.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, shit, and it's really big. Like it's got this giant bass that's like.
How big?
Yeah, it's good for the radio. No, it's like this big, but it's got this giant bass, and the bass is like the super like
really? It's like
metal disc. I don't know. Maybe they don't put that on the TV part of it because the people would just like have to lug it away. But
right. Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
Oh, cool.
So is that the first award that you've won, or have you won?
No, I mean
Is that the first award that you've lost?
Yes.
You won and lost an award that night.
Yeah. It was a lot of firsts actually. Yeah. No, I don't know. Like I've always had a conflicted relationship with that stuff, but it feels like if I want to be, I think it impresses certain people, like people that are maybe gatekeepers, people that have money.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm really honored for it. And all the people that are in it do fucking amazing work too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't normally put myself out there for that, but I feel like the way the last couple of years have been going, maybe I want to win my own jobs and so having a little bit of legitimization from sort of places like that sort of helps grease the wheels a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely. Sorry.
Oh no, all I was going to say is it also helps with visa stuff, and I mean,
okay.
So I've been
Who does it?
Yeah.
What way?
Well, if I want to move to the States, get an O2 visa, I think maybe internet people can correct me afterwards, but I think you need to have sort of, industry sort of legitimization where they're saying, well, he's doing stuff that, the regular sort of person in the industry in America is going to have trouble doing. So, so when they hire you, they can say, well, we can't get a guy to do what he does in the States, we need to hire someone from outside the States.
Right, okay. And was that a conscious decision?
Absolutely.
Why you entered into it?
Yeah, actually, that was probably 50% of the reason, because I was looking at where I was going to live next year, and
So you had to enter that yourself. You entered the filming yourself personally.
It wasn't a film. It was kind of like a more portfolio based.
Right, yeah.
And the other thing that I wanted to practice doing, because I'm terrible at it, is start writing about myself and promoting myself, and that's not something that I enjoy doing at all. And I usually find if I don't enjoy doing something like that, it's probably like a fear thing, and I probably should wrestle with that a little bit and put myself in uncomfortable positions.
Doing podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been fearing this for like weeks.
Really? No way.
I'm like, oh man, I gotta do something crazy like lose an award so I'm gonna
But I think that, I kind of think that you are pretty good at self-promotion. We were just talking before you came, we were looking through your work and trying to figure out what the first way we came across you. I think that I remember your name kept on popping up attached to quite nice things.
Yeah, like the loops and stuff.
Yeah, but it was like always these tiny little snippets of stuff like animated GIFs or whatever. And then I also think that a lot of people I knew who use Photoshop for animation had watched your tutorial. Your Photoshop tutorial, which has 20,000 views on Vimeo, which is amazing for a tutorial.
That's what I was doing last night, is updating that. So hopefully by the time this goes out, I'll have an updated version for all the stuff I did on CS6 and Creative Cloud and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean that's.
But I guess when you did that, that wasn't like a conscious decision to self-promote. That was maybe just sharing the knowledge and
I think
showing what you've.
The Photoshop tutorial was an interesting thing. I'd wanted to make it for ages, and it was that fear thing again. Like for a long time, there's only very few people who know how to do it, and they all do it kind of differently. And I know that I felt like it was an asset that I had. But I also know that I don't want any assets that I have to be software based or some sort of secret knowledge that once someone else figures out, I'm fucked, I want, if I've got assets, I want them to be very personal and I want them to be irreplaceable, my own point of view on things. Yeah. And so having this, it almost felt like a burden. It almost felt like if I share it with people, then I can move on and I won't let it hold me back anymore. I won't let it be something that I've got that no one else has. And yeah, and also like everything I know, I learned from other people. So I reference that in the tutorial, who taught me that, and try to direct people to their work because they're really good as well.
Have you had any contact from Adobe at all on that?
None. None on that.
Have you tried to send it to them or anything like that?
No, but they did sponsor the ADC thing, so they just gave me a 1-year subscription to Creative Cloud,
cool.
Which is
pretty cool.
But because of the award or because of the
No, because of the award. Which is really cool because I had a reduced. Sorry, Adobe, if you're listening. I kind of scammed a reduced sort of fee version for the last 12 months. Right. Where like a friend had a copy of a product, so they get like a reduction in the cost for 12 months. So I had that for the last 12 months, and just before it's about to tick over to the next 12 months, I am very fortunate to get it for free. Oh, cool. So which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think like it'd be kind of interesting for you to send it to them or whatever, because I think like I've tried to animate in Photoshop and I really don't enjoy it that much, and I think like it's got everything it needs to be a good animation software, but I think it needs someone sitting next to them saying, look, hey, if you just made this button do this, or like created a few things. And because for someone like you who works in it quite a lot, it'd be kind of cool if you almost went on as a kind of to help develop those tools.
Because I know that people like, I don't know if you know Andrew Kramer from Video Code. I know that he was involved in the latest development of After Effects.
Really?
It's
perfect. It's a great idea.
I think that is. I mean, maybe he's invested slightly more time in. Stuff.
Absolutely. That's kind of half his career is that. But I
benefit from someone like you doing that.
I mean, I would love that, and I've learned a lot since I've been here as well. Talking to the Animate guys, talking to the Moth Collective guys, because they all do it a different way. And
I thought that they learned off you.
No, I think they were doing it before, and I was like, oh shit, there's people doing it. And then also Charles Huetner does it, and he does it like a completely I'm like, my head does not compute how you do this, man. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, we were talking about this as well, and we were both saying that both you and Charles Huetner have done. I think that the way your work moves seems as if it's animated in Photoshop. It seems like that's informed the way that it works, and like the limitations of Photoshop kind of inform the way it moves. I think in the same way that maybe we've done a bunch of Flash stuff, and it looks a bit like it's done in Flash, and the limitations define a little bit the look of it. I
mean, Photoshop is great. I mean, the reason I like Photoshop, sorry to just talk about software, but the reason I like Photoshop personally is because I really like drawing, and I like making images that I can I feel connected to when I make the image. But it's like animating in Flash, I can't enjoy drawing in Flash because it changes my line. I mean, it's not a sensitive line at all. It's not like drawing on a piece of paper. And I don't know if that's important, but just like it's more enjoyable for me to draw in Photoshop. Okay. And I can also make the final image in Photoshop, so there's no disconnect in my brain. Right. Okay. It's not like I'm gonna affect this with After Effects. I'm gonna put like a there's some sort of texture on it, all this sort of stuff. It's like if it looks good when I draw it, then I can just feel committed. Yeah, I can feel committed to that drawing.
So do you not do any kind of comp stuff in your work afterwards?
I mean, I did a little bit on Phantom Limb. Some little bits where I put kind of a cheap boil effect because it became really apparent that I was going to run out of time.
Right. Okay. And Phantom Limb was your late night work club ghost stories.
Yeah. And then there's a little. I mean, there's a lot of comp in that film, but not much in the animation. And I mean, what you were talking about before about the way that maybe Photoshop animation moves and things like that. I mean, that's with Phantom Limb. I designed that film from the very start to be almost like I wanted it to be almost like a. If it was still images, I wanted it to be able to tell the story because I wanted it to. Yeah. Because the movement. I wanted to make sure I didn't have to animate too much because it was mostly just me working on it. Yeah. And I had no money to do it, and it was just like just in my studio. So, I wanted to make sure that the movement wasn't going to be the main telling parts of it. Yeah. So like I'm not like. I don't think there's any good animation in that. I just think.
Did you animate everything yourself?
I animated probably about 90% of it.
Okay, because there is some beautiful animation there for sure. I mean, honestly, I think it's an outstanding film. I really like it. But no, I was really impressed with that. But I think that the thing that really jumped out at me, that was strong about it, was just like the overall feeling of it. Like just everything worked well. I mean, I felt like the editing was really strong. I felt the animation was really strong. I felt the performance, storytelling, it all kind of worked. And it was obviously somebody who was very technically well informed going into that, but it wasn't like in any way kind of concerned with the technique. It was much more about like just doing a good film, making a good thing.
I think every part of it felt as considered as the next part.
I really like the storyboarding and editing, and I think that when you're talking about doing the thinking of it as individual images, I think that it works.
Yeah, it would have been a cool comic if you'd never animated.
Did you edit it yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I tried a new thing with the film, which I don't know if I would ever recommend to anybody, but I had a lot of trouble because basically I was like, oh, I've got no time, I've got no money, so I can only really make a 2-minute film. And I had the idea to make the film, and I kind of had this like sort of sensation that I wanted to communicate through the film. But I knew that I wanted to make it 2 minutes, and then so I started writing it like words, and I just couldn't do it because there was no way for me to translate how long what I was writing was going to take onto screen. Yeah. And because there's one limitation, the 2-minute thing that I set for myself, I got halfway through a page, it's like, is this a 4-minute scene? Is it a 30-second scene? I don't know if I can use this. I can't write another scene after this if I don't know how long the scene's going to be. So I started doing it all as storyboards and just writing without a script. I had sort of, milestones that I wanted to hit and just writing using storyboards, which is really slow. Like a scene might take like a day to write like a scene. Because you're drawing it all and you're putting it into the animatic and seeing timing it out, and then you're like, that doesn't work, and then I don't know. I don't know if I think I would probably do it again, but I'd probably start at the start and finish at the end, rather than what I did with that was kind of working in bits and scenes, and it was really slow. It was like a really slow process. Yeah.
Was that the first film you've ever made?
Yeah, my first.
Really? I kind of feel like that is just the trial and error of making your first ever film.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's taking long. I think that like maybe the process of storyboarding is not intrinsically a long-winded way of doing things.
Yeah.
I think it's just...
That's how they do it in American feature films.
Isn't it?
They just write, they just storyboard sequences.
Yeah. I've heard people describing things as like board-driven or script-driven. Like in animation you get stuff which is entirely storyboarded, and I think it's something that came, I could be wrong about this, but it came from Disney.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing to think that everybody else was making films with scripts and these guys just said like, we're just going to storyboard 90 minutes of stuff and not write a single thing down.
It's amazing, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that like if you can, I think if you kind of, you have a little bit of a sense of what works from experience, like maybe you don't have to put it all in the animatic and time it out, and you can just sketch it out. Maybe that would be a quicker way.
What did you sort of take from that process? Would you do a combination of both next time, or would you just completely
I just
storyboard it?
remember it being really hard and wondering if there was a better way to do it. There's so many scenes that I storyboarded and put in, and it didn't work, and it just feels like there was a lot of energy. A lot of stuff, like 80% of the stuff.
Really?
Yeah, like there was a lot. I mean, it was about, like, for me the film was about hitting it, like, as I said, like a sensation that I wanted people to sort of feel at the end of it. Not like not an emotional thing, just like almost a physical thing. And it was really hard to find a narrative to that.
Okay.
Which is another thing that I sort of think that I was doing too much of, is having worrying about sort of big sort of metaphorical statements and things like that, and not letting the narrative sort of have finding its own way through. It felt like you kind of had these like bumper guards in the bowling alley, and it's kind of, and it kind of wasn't allowed to go where it wanted to go, which was something else that I learned a lot in the film.
I think you did achieve that, because I mean it's 2 minutes, but then after you watch it,
well, it ended up being 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd be like, okay, so it's 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to add this little scene in, and then it'd be like, oh, okay, well that works better. So obviously we have to keep it, otherwise we're gonna have a 2-minute shit film or a 2-minute 15-minute, 2-minute 15 slightly better film, and then you'd be and then I was like, it was kind of very wishy-washy.
But I think even 4.5 minutes is quite short for it. I think it's a good.
Yeah.
Like,
I watched Nicholas Maynard's film. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think it's about 6 minutes, and I think that is incredible. Like
a 6 minute kind of mark, or that.
No, his film is incredible.
Oh, right.
It doesn't feel like 6 minutes at all. It feels like 10 seconds. Like.
But I think like there's kind of two kind of compliments, I suppose, you can kind of get from having a short film. Is one that, or like a film around 6 minutes, is one that it can whiz by and you're like, oh, that didn't feel like 6 minutes, and that's a good thing, because sometimes films can drag on. But then I think it's nice that you feel a big story in a short space of time, and I think like definitely with your film it felt like a complex story, a narrative, and you take a lot away from it, even though it's like 4.5 minutes. And I think that's one of the things I really enjoyed most about it, that it felt like there was a lot of information that you could take from it in a short space.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think I had, like, because it's my first film, I had a lot of insecurity, and I also had a lot of energy, like just frustration. Like, I've seen so many films, and the sort of the Disney standard, and I mean they're great, sort of short film, and they're kind of like pinnacle of storytelling, but it was a real conflict while I was making it to make sure that I wasn't kind of following those rules. And I was like, oh man, there's so many of those films out there already, and I think parts of it do have. I just think what I was learning was you can't break all the rules at once. Like, I just wanted to break all the rules, like at the same time. I'm like, no, I think I've got to break like one rule, like for the whole film. Like, do everything straight and just break one rule. Which is like, the next film I make is maybe gonna be a lot less conflicted, hopefully. I guess that's what everyone says, but then they make the second film and then we're like, man, this is just as hard as the first film.
I think you did some cool stuff. Like, we were watching it before you arrived, and one of the things I noticed this time around was that how you changed the aspect ratio.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to do that.
But yeah, it looks great though. I really like that.
Okay. I'm glad that's okay. I watched something that had that shot in it. I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. I don't know if anyone noticed that.
Do you know what? Like, I was watching. I think it was like The Dark Knight Rises or something, and they do it in that.
They do, don't they?
Yeah. It changes aspect ratio,
and it's like just makes it feel like epic for like a couple of minutes.
Yeah. And I think it's like, who says that you can't do that? I think it's fine.
I think increasingly it's getting more and more possible to change aspect ratios. The way people watch.
I mean, that was your film, right? Well, that was amazing, because your film had the aspect ratio completely flipped.
It was
but it was like totally to do with the story, and it all tied up in the end. It kind of felt like it confronts you with this sort of like change of format at the start. And you're like, why are they doing this? This is dumb. And then like straight away, it's like, oh, of course, this is awesome. Like, why didn't I think of this? Like, this is, you can have any I don't know. it was really well done. I was really
Thanks, man.
really blown away by it.
Yeah, it was funny because I'd known Bjorn for a long time, and we lived together in university when we were about 19, I think. And I remember we were trying to write a film which never got made, and we were storyboarding it, and we had to decide what, like, we were doing the animatic. This is about as far as we got. I think we finished the animatic.
Right.
But we got as far as setting up the comp in After Effects, and we were like, what aspect ratio is it going to be? I remember just having this big argument about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't think we need to do it in like super widescreen, and he was like, no, it's going to look so much more. It's going to like look at higher production value if we do it widescreen. And I was like, I don't know, like, why do we have to fucking do stuff widescreen because everyone else is blah blah blah? And we had this argument about it, and then to his credit, he came back the next day and he's like, you're absolutely right, like, fuck aspect ratios, do it however you want. And then I remember when we did our film, I storyboarded the whole thing in 16:9, and then Bjorn was doing a lot of the concept illustrations, and I remember him, I said, come check this out, I think I've finished it, I think I've done the whole animatic, and it's a really elaborate animatic. And he's like, in his like Bjorn way, just kind of like quietly looked over it and he goes, yeah, it looks nice. How about doing it in 9:16?
How about just rotating?
Yeah. And I was like,
when I was saying do it widescreen, I meant the other way.
Yeah, and I just want to punch him in the face, but I also kiss him at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a great.
Kiss your fist. And then
It was a great idea, and I'm glad. And we went back and redid the whole thing, and I think it was a good decision. But yeah, no, those kind of things I think are interesting. There was one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which was the way in which you made that film.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's also quite unique, and I suppose modern, which was that you made it. It was an omnibus of shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Was there 10 shorts?
Oh man, I don't know.
It's a bunch.
It's a bunch.
Right. And there was people all working remotely together to produce shorts, which went out, and I think you can still only view them as a whole, right?
Yeah.
You can all the films together in one.
Yeah, I think we're starting to break them up into short film stuff, like for festivals, but it's online. They're going to stay as
And who this is the Late Night Work Club Ghost Stories, and who was the guy who set that, whose concept it was?
I think originally it was Scott Benson.
Okay.
He's in Pennsylvania, and he's just finished crowdfunding a game.
Have you
been watching that?
I've seen, like, he put a thing online about it.
They just got, I think they put a budget up for $50,000 and they got $200 and something thousand.
Really?
Yeah. So they've like 400% over point. I'm so proud of those guys. It's like him and another guy who's, I think he's quite an established game designer.
Right.
But Scott is a bit of a genius, and he put up this tweet, and like Twitter's been a big thing for me since I moved here, but he put up this tweet and he's like, what if we had animation that was like no brow, where there's like, they just get all these artists that you like, put them all into one sort of group, and then and it's kind of curated, and you have a theme, and everyone just makes whatever they want to that theme, and we put it out together and promote each other, and sort of have this like, big snowball of like sort of interest, I guess, in what we're doing. But it did get a lot of interest, but that was never like why he wanted to do it. I think he just wanted to make something that was good and something that was connected to each other. And this is before.
This is how Late Night Work Club started.
Yeah, this is maybe like early 2013. He's put up this tweet, and I was like, sounds amazing. You should do it, man. And then a couple of months later, I get this email from him and Eamon O'Neill, Eamon McNamara, and Charles Huetner, saying, "Hey, would you like to be part of this thing called Late Night Work Club?" And then basically laying out that same tweet thing. And honestly, it was Scott he's the brains trust behind it. He was the guy sending out emails to make sure we hit our deadlines. He was the one sort of saying, we're going to make a teaser trailer, we're going to make a trailer, we're going to make all this stuff. And, you know, he gets the internet, you know, he knows what, he knows, like, I think because he's kind of like, you know, everything that he wants to see is also what, like, a million other people want to see. And he's just kind of like, he's just so, like, I don't know, he's just so open and in touch with that part of himself where he can kind of say, well, I want to see it and I'm going to make it happen. And then he makes it happen. And then everyone else is like, yeah, why didn't I think of that? So that's kind of how it got started. And I think that's how his game got so successful, like got so much attention as well, because he's kind of just one step ahead. And
it's brilliant. I mean, it's just like, I love hearing stuff like that. Like people just not waiting around for the people with money to just go and do it. And or I think so much of like our industry is about us trying to convince people to give us a shot, or I've got, like you said, like to go and work in New York, you have to have an award and to go and do it, and there's all these kind of holes you have to kind of loops or whatever you've got to jump through, and then you've just got people like that who are kind of utilising like the best tool ever, I think, the internet, and they get it and they're just killing it, man, and I think it's amazing.
I think it's a really interesting thing, and anyone who embraces that succeeds. I think there's all, you know, or has the opportunity to succeed far more than what they would have had before. Like going overseas and like talking, just a bit of a tangent, but like having we had to do Airbnb to go to America, so we stayed at Airbnb, but there's all this talk about New York City kind of crack down on Airbnb.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I didn't want to start talking about Airbnb.
No, well, I think it has like it is like an analogy of
right?
what's happening now with the internet. So
there's a petition to save it.
Well, basically, Airbnb in New York represents sort of a new system, and the reason it's working is because, you know, people want it, and the reason it's succeeding is because people weren't able to do it before. People weren't as connected. There wasn't this service before, and the old system is stay at a hotel, pay 4 times the amount to stay at like some big hotel. That money goes to some oligarch somewhere. You know, but this way is like connecting one person to another person. You know, they've got a spare bed, or they've got like a room that they've got and so people can connect directly. And people that want to stop that just kind of don't get the direction that this tidal wave is moving. People are getting more and more connected. So if you want to like be the old guard and say, we've got to protect our hotels, you're completely missing the point. The hotels either have to adapt or they're going to die. If you're going to stand in the mud and say, I'm not moving, you know, I'm going to try to stop this tidal wave, it's really kind of like, it's the death knell for your industry. I mean, the music industry did it, and then Apple kind of dominates the music industry because they were the one group that decided to
go along with how
to say things are changing and we're going to take advantage of it, we're going to make the most of it. And it's the same, just to bring it back around, it's the same with creativity on the internet. People can get upset about the inundation of work, the inundation of like people producing copies of work as well. You know, people can get upset about it, but I mean, you're not going to stop the internet. You're not going to stop connection of people, and the reason it's working is because it connects to people on like a pretty deep level. I think Well,
you can connect with someone who's exactly like-minded like you. You're not like you. People will not connect unless you or will not bite from a tweet if it doesn't speak to them directly. And it's like, I mean, have you even met Scott Benson?
No.
I mean, and he's.
This was the main thing that I wanted to ask. How many of those people have you met?
Well, as a result of Late Night Work Club, I've got to hang out with the guys in London a lot more, like Eamon and Dave Prosser. Those guys are really nice. And I got to go meet Jake Armstrong when I went to New York last year. And that was about the time that I started writing Phantom Limb. Like I bought like a little bamboo and like tablet and I brought my laptop over, and I was going to start making the film while I was in New York last year, and that was a mistake because it's New York and you just want to get drunk every night and eat pizza. So that wasn't successful. But I did get to meet Jake, and then Jake, he was really helpful because Jake is a badass story guy, you know, and he also storyboards on lots of TV shows and stuff like that. And, so he has like a good sense of timing and story structure and things like that. So at a certain point I sent him my animatic, and he would, you know, we'd like Google Hangout, and he'd just talk me through things, like his impressions of it, and he did the same, his film to me.
Which one was his film?
Mountain Ash.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you should talk to Jake about that, because like, it was kind of his stuff. Like, they had a very different film. It got 70% of the way through, and they decided to can it, and then he had a very short amount of time, and he was like, "Fuck it, you know, I've spent so long trying to make a film. I'm gonna make a film, even if it's like, you know, I've only got like a month and a half or something to make the entire film."
So that was done in a month and a half.
Yeah, you'd have to ask him, but it's pretty it's very quick turnarounds. Like, he was just like, "Yeah, I've got this idea," and he just made it straight away.
Yeah.
He's very fast at what he does too. So.
And there's never been a point where everyone's been in a room together.
Oh, no way. I mean, yeah, I mean, it took me ages to even meet Eamon. Like, he's in the same city as me, and I mean, I've loved his work for ages, and we've talked about working together even before Late Night Work Club. And
did you feel like it was important to meet him, or that it was, or have you felt like it's been changed your relationship with the people that you?
I mean, I definitely feel close to all the people in the group.
Yeah.
It was really important for me to be part of that group as well. Because everyone in the group had made films before, and they're all super great. Like, I respect all of their work way before Late Night Work Club. And knowing that my work had to be next to theirs was so much pressure, and I put a lot. It was like, I can't phone this in. Like, I've got to make something awesome, because it's like next to like BAFTA nominees and like you know, internet celebrities and things like, you know, like, and all these people, and like, and that's all that stuff's bullshit. What I care about is like, I love their work. And I didn't want to look like a dick next to them, you know, because when you put your stuff next to those guys, it's like, it's quite easy to look like a chump, you know?
But then, do you know what, maybe that's the kind of, like, the fact that you were thinking that, and some of the people have been nominated for BAFTA, and that kind of, I mean, definitely for me, like, no offense to any of the other work, but yours is definitely one of the standout pieces, and maybe it's because you didn't have that initial platform that maybe everyone else had, or like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, like, you
didn't have that exposure before.
Yeah. Although I think you know, people were aware of you, but maybe it's that kind of you thinking that has made you sort of push it harder. Or
it was a little, it definitely was a little bit of that, and it was also, I've worked on other people's short films for a long time, and I've worked on like helping other people make projects for a long time. And I think I just wanted to make a project that I completely owned, and I didn't have any excuses. Like, I didn't have clients, and I didn't have, so it was like, if I make this film, it's like, it's got to be like the culmination of everything I care about, which is so much pressure to put on yourself to make a film. But it was kind of like, you know, it was double-edged. So it was a lot of pressure, it was a lot of negativity, but it was also a lot of energy. There was so much energy. Like, it just felt like it was going to explode for most of the film.
That's
it's just,
yeah. I think, but it's funny. Like, the last few years have been the first time that I've seen a lot of people making films completely on their own outside of an institution, and making like really high quality stuff, and not following the normal procedures that people usually go through when they make films. They usually get funding, and they make it as part of a production company, and they set a designated amount of time aside, and then they release it, and it goes for 2 years around festivals, and then finally they'll put it up online almost as an afterthought. But what was different about, I mean, particularly what you guys did, but also a number of other things that I've seen online recently, was it was really high quality. The genesis happened online. All the collaborative aspect of it happened online, and then you guys immediately released it online. And it seems like, I don't know. It seems like I don't know what you guys think, but I kind of feel like almost since I've been doing animation, which is 10 years or something, now is the most alive and exciting time for like short films in animation, and it's because of these systems that people have managed to set up where they're working collaboratively, either remotely or together in the same place, and managing to work their work life around their creative life, and it's and very little of it is actually coming out of universities, or comparatively.
You don't need permission anymore. You know? You just like, and I think it's like a shift. I mean, for me, I came up through that system, and now I'm part of like, this sort of change that's happening.
So you came up through which system?
Through the old school sort of like, like.
So you went to university.
I went to university and I got a degree, and
that was in Australia.
That was in Australia, and then I worked on a film called The Cat Piano. So that was my first job out of uni, which was incredible. I was following that blog for ages.
And where was that?
It was in Adelaide in Australia, and it was a studio called People's Republic of Animation, and it was directed by Eddie White and Ari Gibson. And Ari was the one who showed me how to use Photoshop as an animation tool. Because I was like, "You're crazy, man! You're animating with Photoshop," and he's like, "Yeah, check this out." And like within a day, I had a shot done, and so it was like, "Oh well, that's so much better than like I'd given up on 2D. Like I wasn't interested in 2D animation at all."
That you're a
3D.
We'll talk about it later as well, but you're quite an accomplished 3D animator.
Yeah, I mean 3D's been my bread and butter for ages, but 2D I like drawing. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we did Cat Piano, and like we had to release it, the festival circuit. Is that a thing?
Alarm's going off.
Not alarm's going off.
Someone's phone.
So I had to release it by the festival system because it was funded by a festival, and then so it had to be offline for like 2 years or something. And then there was a big freak out because we had a screener online, and then it got sort of shortlisted for the Oscars, and the Academy wrote the producer an email saying, "How long has this been online?" And then it might not be eligible.
This is the Cat Piano.
Yeah.
It got nominated for an Oscar?
No, it got shortlisted. It's that sort of 10 film shortlist that they do. So I had this that was my introduction to the industry. It was that system where you have to do the festivals, and then you have to do, keep it offline so it can be eligible for these things. And it felt really arbitrary to me. Yeah. Like, I thought the film was great. I felt like people wanted to see it, but only a very select few people could see it. So I don't know. It feels like Late Night Work Club is like.
Do you just purely on the releasing things before they've done the festival circuit? Do you think that was a good decision? Are you happy that you guys did that? Because obviously there's like festivals that you're not eligible for, quite a few, I imagine.
Yeah, I got like when you putting this online, do you think like this?
We have no idea.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess it's going to be after the press release date, but we got accepted. I've only entered in a handful of festivals, but we just got accepted into my film got accepted into Sundance as a Friday.
As a standalone thing.
Yeah, as a standalone.
Wow, that's
film.
great.
So despite it's online, you could. So I mean that's amazing. Like I've never screened in a festival. Obviously, Sundance is it's kind of a big thing to be part of. So,
wow, that's amazing.
So I'm like, it's crazy, but it's online already, and they still accepted it. If that's a pretty big deal. I'm gonna enter into Annecy.
It's good to hear that they're. I think Annecy are not bothered about it being online.
No.
But it's good to hear a big festival like Sundance is ignoring that model now, and maybe some other big ones will follow suit.
I know BAFTA don't mind.
Oh really?
If it's up online, yeah.
Cool.
Because what is?
Yeah, it doesn't.
What's it going to make it to them? I mean, even with the Oscars, it's not like none of the films that are being nominated people couldn't have seen.
I think it's just again, it's big companies or organisations or power structures getting on board with something that's changing.
Absolutely. The institution doesn't change shit quickly.
No.
And people get disillusioned with the institution as soon as they get left behind. So they'll catch up eventually, but and a lot of festivals are catching up very quickly. It's just I think the Academy is going to be the slowest to catch up, honestly, because they are an old institution, and I respect their decision to fight for what they believe cinema is, and cinema to them is on the big screen. It's at a public space, and once things sort of shift out of that, it means something different to them, which is fine. It just means that David O'Reilly is an interesting one because I think his Please Say Something is like one of the best films of my generation. And I don't know what the story is, but he either wasn't eligible or he made himself uneligible for the Oscars.
That sounds more like
yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah. So, and I think that's a good sign. He's not interested. And I mean, awards and festivals and stuff like that, they're arbitrary to the actual filmmaking. They're like, they help with what I was saying before about awards or whatever, but they open doors for you that just having good attitude and making good work maybe doesn't open the doors. And unfortunately that's a game we have to play sometimes if we want to make a living doing what we do. But as long as it doesn't get it, and my big thing, and I was really worried about this until the last couple of years, is that people always say, I always hear this sentence like, funding bodies love it, or festivals love this, when they were coming up with the ideas. And that's crazy to me. That's so crazy. It's like, festivals are there to champion good creative work. You're not there to placate a festival, So internet's the same. You can put like a cat falling over, and that's got no artistic merit, but it's funny as hell, and people like 1 trillion people watch it, and that doesn't mean it's a great film. So sometimes people are like, oh, internet will love it, and then that's the same thing.
But then that becomes kind of like a formula as well, that like, you get companies that open up that just specialize in trying to produce viral videos, and there's like a kind of
I love this.
There's like a kind of like a
recipe or something.
Sorry?
A recipe.
Yeah. Basically, babies, boobies, and cats. It's like you just need you need a baby kitten with some big tits, and like they got a lot of hits.
You should make that before you put this podcast out, because it's that's gonna be huge.
One of the things like I guess the internet was a big part of this thing, but one of the most impressive things for me. There's been a couple of times this year where I've been quite impressed by this, but the fact that you guys were also able to organise an event in London, which was huge. A lot of people came to that, and I couldn't get in to see the film.
Did you watch the second one? You didn't see it?
No.
Not even the second screen?
No. I mean, I could have probably like pushed to the front and probably stuck my head in, stuck my head in the back of the room, whatever. But I just thought like I was having such good chats with so many people I hadn't seen in a while. I thought I'll just watch this tomorrow and get in early and watch it. But yeah, no, it was so cool to like bring all those people together. I think for that night, was it a few hundred people? Came to that thing.
Yeah. It packed out the bar, packed out the upstairs bit.
If there was a fire, the animation industry in London
would be wiped out.
Catastrophic.
But I think that to me was really important that you guys organised that thing, and I think that's another thing. Like I kind of feel like that's a fairly recent development. Is you get all these different people of different stripes coming in one place on one night because they've heard some guys talking about stuff on Twitter for a year or two.
I was really happy we got to do the screening. I mean that was a big distraction because I organised that, and in the end I could have organised it in an afternoon, but I was trying to organise a place where it was an empty room. It was a giant empty room, and then I'd have to organise a theatre, like a projector, and I have to organise seats, and I have to buy beer for everyone. But in the end, Bar Kick let us have their space for free, and they have a giant TV, and so it was fun. I mean, I think that I'm always trying to look at the sort of the I don't know, like the human sort ofness of like anything that's sort of popular or anything that people are interested in. And to me, like I think everyone just wanted to connect to each other. And Twitter's fine, but it's a little bit superficial, or it's like just very short, very sort of public things. And it was really important for me to organise just a place to get drunk together. I didn't care like if people got to see the film, if it was like, because they can watch it online. It was more about getting people of similar interests in the same room, and then getting them really drunk and hopefully crossing over. Like, what I'm doing this afternoon is I'm meeting up with two guys who I met at the screening, like having a beer with them.
But even before that, like I think we were all kind of, even before me and Sam met, we would have all been aware of each other online in some
Yeah, it's
capacity.
funny. It's really
Definitely without the internet, this
Yeah.
wouldn't be happening.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting to meet people and start chatting to them, and then suddenly realise that you know their work intimately. After about 15 minutes of talking. I remember Wes.
Or like you'd been talking to them online
Yeah.
before, and be like, "Oh my god, that's you! Hey, like we were talking last week."
And that happens, I think, probably a little bit more in animation than in.
Yeah. I've talked to friends about this. Like, animation seems like a really tight community, and then people compare it to things like design, and there's a little bit more animosity between people in design.
Really?
Yeah, like the friends that I've talked to, like they're not very community. Oh man, I can't wait for the flame war after the. No, but like friends that I've talked to, like they're like, wow, how did you get so many people at screening? And they're all like happy to talk to each other and stuff. That wouldn't happen in design so
Really?
much.
Is it a bit more like fuck that guy in design?
Well, I think it's a little bit like it's very hard to define your own work. In some other fields, like some fields, it's hard to define your own work, but in animation, it's very easy to define your own work because you do it with your hands and you make it all by hand.
Yeah.
Whereas design is kind of using age-old sort of rules to structure things and then trying to implement your own ideas, but hopefully your design sort of sits in the background and sort of push the ideas to the front.
Sorry, go ahead. I suppose it must be easier to copy someone's style in design.
Maybe.
I mean, in animation, like, if there's a really good animator, you can't just copy his stuff like and animate it to the same standard. And by every right, if you can, then you're a good animator yourself.
Yeah.
I'd say one of the defining characteristics of animation is there's a really high barrier to entry in skill.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a massive factor in a lot of people's decision to get involved in animation. Like, they feel that they want to hang out with a bunch of people who've spent 10 years devoting themselves to being at the same level as
Absolutely.
that person.
And it's really like rare. Like when I was a kid, I was the only person who drew, and I thought, I'm probably the only person in the world that draws, and I'm probably going to be the best in the world. And so I was like, I was like living in like a country town in Australia. I was like, I'm the only person who draws. This is pretty sweet. And then I went to uni.
Yeah,
I was definitely bottom of the class. I didn't even know about the internet. Like I just knew about the internet for emails and like staying in touch with friends. I didn't know there was art on the internet. And then I found art on the internet. Like I was like, deviant art, that's amazing. And then I was like, let's draw anime. And I just, I was like, it was kind of this real growth period where I like met people that did what I did, and they all like were like me, and they drew a lot, and they had to work really hard to draw well. And I wasn't interested in animation at all. I was like interested in drawing, and I was like interested in filmmaking, but I wasn't interested in animation, and that sort of came later. But I got to uni, and like there was all these people, and they're better than me, and they know animation directors by names and stuff, and I was like, what the hell is this world that I'm in?
I think that's a really interesting rite of passage, and I saw it happen pretty much with every year that when I was at university. Every new year coming in, you get everybody was like the hot shot in their school, and it was just like something that they did because that's what they did and that's what they've always done. And like they were the guy in the class who drew, and that was where all their positive reinforcement kind of came socially, and then suddenly they were thrown into an environment where everybody else was at a similar if not better level, and suddenly had to up their game massively, and like their confidence had to be completely rebuilt. And I think that I think that's a really healthy thing for
absolutely.
people to do.
It was it was growing up, like going from a 17-year-old first year uni to graduating uni and having been through that, and then being surrounded, I guess half of my course was a lot older than me, like in their 20s, and they're like international students coming to Australia, and they were just badass at what they did, and I was like this, like I'm used to just like copying videotaping Dragon Ball Z and like copying the pose and go, that's a cool muscle, and then like having to go to life drawing class and be surrounded by these guys who are like do beautiful life drawings, and I'm like, this doesn't look like Dragon Ball Z. Like
Did you still do life drawing?
I don't do it as much in classes. I usually warm up with a black drawing app that's on like the web.
Okay.
So like
it's still got to be internet based.
Shit, what's it called? I don't know. I'll give you guys a link.
I
Put
think
it
we can do
underneath.
show notes. Or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
post it.
But I like anytime I do like start a day, I usually spend 20 minutes doing.
Oh really?
It's just basically it's an app that's online and it's just collected a whole bunch of like live drawing sort of photography, and then it cycles through every 2 minutes or however long.
Oh, so you can only draw it for like 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Or something. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that actually. That sounds like a great idea.
It's so good to get warmed up to, and
Yeah.
it's like live drawing is kind of my version of meditation because like it takes about 20 minutes and then you zone out and then you're just drawing, and that's a good way to start the day for me.
Sorry, do you keep a sketchbook other than that? Like,
I draw like a lot. I've got this like little sketchbook. I usually have like these little moleskin ones.
Okay. You take them on the tube.
Yeah, just anything that I can fit in my pocket. I used to like a big change for me was where I can't find it, but it was a big change for me was when I stopped showing people my sketchbook.
Okay.
Which like made me rediscover drawing. Like because
that's great.
because at university like everyone would be like, hey. And they just take your sketchbook out of your hand and like look through your sketches. So you kind of had to be like prepared. You had to make sure your sketchbook was really sweet.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I got really self-conscious and I stopped drawing so much. But now I stopped showing people and I share it online every now and again if I like something. But
But it really is a sketchbook. It's not a work.
Absolutely. Like all my finished work is kind of, it's finished or it's like a sketchbook and they look shit 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Just like. Than me trying to figure out stuff, and they're not shareable at all. Like if like a historian went through my like sketchbook, they're like, well, this guy's a dunce, and then like next,
Apparently, like even these like Michelangelo and that destroyed so much of their drawings.
I can understand that completely.
I'm quite similar to Michelangelo.
It brings you onto a question like because we've been talking about how much you're into drawing, and but then you come from a 3D background. Is that before you did 2D stuff?
I think when I was at uni, I was like, well, there's no chance I'll ever work in this profession.
As a 2D animator?
No, as like anything.
Really?
Like, well, there was just no industry in Brisbane. There was one studio and there was game studios around, and I was like, well, I guess I'll finish this and I'll figure out what I'm going to do. But so I was like, well, the best career decision is to learn 3D. So I learned 3D, and I was doing concept art sort of more at the time. And I worked at a game studio with like work experience in the last year of uni, and they let me do concept art there, and that was really great. And that was kind of my dream job at the time, was doing concept art. So I got to indulge those two things. Like to me, 3D animation was really nice because you get to bring these characters to life, and to me that felt important. And sort of like a worthwhile pursuit was sort of this weird magic of bringing characters to life in 3D. And then the 2D that we had at the time was either flash single animation or on paper. And on paper, I'm just not good at that. Like, I mean, I draw on paper all the time, but things go wrong and you'd be like, I've ripped this page and then I want to erase this bit and like my peg holes are like stretched out and now it like flickers on screen and like
fucking peg holes.
Yeah, and then we're just like, I don't know, it just like drove me nuts and it was like, this is a fucking chore and I don't enjoy this at all. So I'm like, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do single animation. I enjoyed 3D animation and I enjoyed drawing. And then at the end of that, I got a job where they were like, well, you can draw and you can do 3D animation and you're fresh out of university, so we can pay you not very much. I say that and it's kind of disrespectful because like I was one of the only people that got, a reason. All the animators got paid, but the directors and art directors and stuff didn't really get paid for the job.
Really?
Well, because it was their film and they were kind of like...
Oh, okay.
They should have got paid, and I definitely like feel bad.
What film was it?
The Cat Piano.
Oh, so you were working 2D?
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't work after university in 3D in a company?
No, I worked at a game studio, and then they were like, you can have a concept art job, and then I was like, that's amazing. And then we moved to Japan instead, and I taught English for 6 months or something. And I just kept working on my concept art stuff, and then while I was there, it was like global financial crisis, and all of the game studios in Brisbane shut down. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's shit. Like the game studio that I got offered a job at as well shut down. And then there was like, the only job postings there were for animation, like 3D animation. I was like, man, I really backed the wrong horse here. Maybe I should focus on my animation stuff. So I moved home for like a month, and I did 3D animation and worked on that.
And is that like all, like rigging and modelling, or just literally
just
character?
animation?
Okay.
Just 3D animation. I suck at all that other stuff.
Where did you work?
Nowhere.
So you didn't go and work for a company.
No, I worked. You mean in Japan or?
So you said you came back from Japan to Australia to work?
No, I just worked in my bedroom for like a month or
nice.
two, and then on my 21st birthday, my friend came up from Adelaide for my birthday party. I'm like, that's amazing, and she's hey, do you want to work on a short film? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, we've got a job, and we want you to do it. I'm like, that's amazing, best birthday party ever. So, and then that was the 2D job.
Right, okay.
So they saw my 3D animation that I was working on, and they also had been following my blog of my concept art stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a weird turn, and that obviously introduced me back into 2D animation world. And then like most of my work since then has been 3D animation.
In London.
In Australia, I worked for about 3 years in Australia.
Oh really?
Yeah, and then in London, I was just I was doing 3D animation. That's been my bread and butter, and that's my reel is mostly 3D animation. And I had to make a pretty concerted effort to leave that behind. I had to sort of say I'm not doing it.
What? Because there was work there for you if you wanted it.
Yeah, and I feel like really privileged that there was work there for me. And I'd worked really hard to be able to get to a level where there would be work there for me. And I've done a lot of study and a lot of studies of things and worked really hard to get to that. But
So now
I don't know. I wanted to like. I think I was just fed up with 3D. It felt like to me by the end, it just felt like I was watching someone else work. It didn't.
Right.
I didn't feel connected to it at all. It didn't. Yeah, it wasn't what I was enjoying, and it felt like I wasn't doing as good a work anymore as well because I wasn't as into it. So I think that's a dangerous position to be in, where I'm not motivated. So I had to sort of take myself out of that. And and Phantom Limb was kind of I did another short piece called Finger Puppets, which was 3D.
I'm gonna try and bring that up.
Yeah. But Finger
So
Puppets
good.
was a 3D thing, and I left an amazing job with Ben Hibben at Nexus, doing 3D job for Salvation Army. I was kind of okay. I'm finishing now, and now I'm going to do this Finger Puppets thing for a couple of weeks. So I did that. That was really fun.
So good. It's so good. Even just the way it looks is brilliant.
Yeah, that's my friend Ryan Kirby, who I work with a lot. He worked with me on Phantom Limb and my new music video as well. And he's a genius 3D guy. He's got a very similar attitude to me as well, so it makes it really easy to work together, I think.
Yeah. What was the kind of? Because it feels very sexual, but it's not. It's not.
We got asked about that. We got asked about that.
What was the kind of? It was for the Sydney Opera House or something.
Yeah, it was for the Graphic Festival in Sydney Opera House, and it was basically just a drawing that I did while I was working, like animating other people's stuff.
Yeah.
It was just a finger and a finger puppet, and I was like, that's pretty funny. And I also had been to Pictoplasma earlier that year,
Right.
and this kind of the format is. I think Pictoplasma was like, wow, this is really good. It's kind of like you can put a face on anything, and people just like empathize with it. They start to like project humanness on anything. And I think Finger Puppets to me, like the joke was, it's kind of taking something really innocent and doing something really innocent, and then people projecting human vice onto it.
Yeah.
And that to me was the joke.
But it must have been a conscious decision to make it.
Absolutely.
Sexual,
I mean, for me, like there was one shot in that which was like that was the whole point, and then there was every other shot was just making it into like a big, and that was just like, I mean, the first shot was kind of the sketch that I'd had, and then there was another shot where it had like just the loop of one puppet inside the other puppet. And bouncing along, and I did that. I'm like, that's it. I could just stop now. Like, But, had to kind of flesh it out. So
Yeah. And would you not want to do more stuff like that? Because the
Kind of.
aesthetic for that was really beautiful.
3D is really hard because you need to work with a lot of people, and you kind of need to, like, for me, like 2D is great because I can just sit there and make everything.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
3D is like you need to work with people and you need to call in favors and
Yeah.
and ask for favors more so. I owe a lot of people a lot of favors.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I just did a 3D music video.
Yeah.
I saw that. It was really nice actually. It was with the Xbox Connect.
Yeah, that's it. You know,
Who was the music video for?
it's for DZ Deathrays, and they're an Australian band.
And this is be on your Vimeo account.
Yeah, that is my Vimeo account.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about. That's my first ever music video, and like music videos were kind of the reason I got into filmmaking in the first place.
Okay.
And I learned a lot doing that. It was a bit overwhelming because it was all 3D, and I had to do everything but the shoot and the sort of processing the raw data.
Yeah.
I had to, have a hand in, and had to learn to do myself to a certain extent. So.
And how was it? Because it's got quite an unusual aesthetic to the characters in it, or the people in it, and it kind of looks like motion capture or something.
Yeah, so that's it's captured with the Xbox Connect and another thing done by the same people, which is like a close-up camera, which is more high definition.
Right. Okay.
And that generates 3D points, like a point cloud of people.
Right.
But I mean, I think it was successful, and the band really liked it. The shots that I really like are the live action shots where I start fucking up the world. And
really like those. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that's kind of the video. And it wasn't until I hit that like 2/3 through making it, I was like, that's what I wanted the video to be. And then it's like, well, I got to deliver it in like a week. So
it looks good though, man. I really like it.
Yeah, how was that done then? Achieve that look?
I just got my digital SLR and a rig, and I just went around shooting stuff. And then I put it into 3D, and I projected onto the 3D.
Oh, right, okay. And then you popped up shapes in it.
Yeah. And it was a weird technical thing. It was kind of like exercising that part of my brain where I was really happy to make something kind of technical.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself to be a technical person? Yeah, yes.
I enjoy problem solving, and I think I always think of like creative things in problem solving sense.
Yeah, I think creativity is problem solving.
Yeah, I think some people, are white space creative people, and they say, well, I want to make this, and it doesn't, and they're just driven to make that, like they have an urge from within to make something. Whereas I usually find that I need an external problem to solve, and for Late Night Work Club that offered that, where I had to make a ghost story. I was like, well, fuck ghost stories, like ghost. I don't like horror, and I don't like ghost stories, and so it gave me something to rebel against. It gave me a problem to solve, and like at school, like I did all maths and science. I didn't do any creative subjects at school,
really?
Until like halfway through like the second last year, I changed to film and TV, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And I was like lost my mind with that. And
so did you but you said you were like into anime and DeviantArt and stuff back then?
No, that was like
later.
I mean, anime I used to watch like those sort of things, but DeviantArt I didn't know anything about until I got to university.
Okay.
So I'm a late bloomer when it comes to that stuff.
I kind of dipped into DeviantArt like for about a week, I think, or something, like after university. Like I'm even obviously a later bloomer than you, but it just seems like the most confusing website. Like, just can't understand, like, regardless of the fact that there's some very, very questionable artwork on it. Like, there's also I just couldn't understand like what I was looking at, like what was somebody's portfolio.
Yeah,
it was like
because there was a whole section which is like stuff they just favorited, and you're looking
and
at
it's all mixed up with the stuff that they've made. And, I didn't find it like a great platform personally.
I found when I got into it was like a good way to. Well, for starters, there was a lot of people making awesome stuff, and I was like, that's amazing. And it's a community thing. So you make a profile, and then you comment on stuff, and people look at your avatar and they click through your thing, and then they see your artwork and they comment on your stuff. it's kind of this weird echo chamber of like ass padding, like they just pat you on the ass
Right.
just so that people will go to their website.
I kind of feel like Vimeo is a little bit like that as well.
Yeah, I mean Vimeo is kind of groundbreaking for a lot of reasons, and it's kind of opened up the platform for short filmmaking in a big way. But it does feel like it's not a platform for critique or meaningful discussion.
No.
It's kind of like a platform for positivity. And I'm not necessarily against that.
I agree. I actually think that Vimeo is a really, really amazing network. But I just think that I wonder if people kind of coming up nowadays who are going through who are part of networks like that, whether they're getting the necessary kind of negative criticism as well as kind of positive reinforcement.
A big step for me was discovering a forum called Satellite Soda, and I discovered that through artists I liked on DeviantArt.
Satellite Soda.
Yeah, and it's basically just a forum, but they had a rule. Well, for starters, they had like a group of artists who were all really good, who kind of like the mainstays of the forum. They moderated the forum. There's a few Australian guys, a few guys in the US, a few guys in the UK, and they're really good, and they still are really good, and they still produce really good work. But they had a rule on the forum where you couldn't comment on anyone's work unless you qualified it. So you couldn't say, "Hey, great work," end of discussion. You had to say, "Hey, I really like this because of this," and it had to be really technical, sort of art, like fundamentals of art, like fundamentals of illustration and things like that. Saying, "I like this composition, I like the way this directs your eye to this." Or if you didn't like something, it would be really constructive, and there'd be a lot of draw-overs of like anatomy and things like that. And it was like a really positive community.
Yeah.
And it was, and being like a second year university student, and I was terrible. And I was like putting stuff up on there, and they're like, "Hey, this is bad because of this," and like, it was what I was missing. Like even at university, maybe the lecturers would give you critiques once or twice a semester on your assignments, but this you could have every day. You could put up a drawing and be like, "Well, you need to do this and this and this," or you need to like introduce me to color theory and introduce me to like the importance of not making up anatomy. Hardcore. Like there's a bunch of guys from CalArts who do it. There's a bunch of guys in New Zealand who are like really like good. I don't know what.
And this is on this forum.
Yeah. I think it's a lot quieter these days. So I think if anyone listening is looking for it, maybe it's not the best one to get involved with now, but look for a community that's like offering that. There's not offering like just a pat on the ass so that people look at your profile.
I kind of feel like kind of comes back to that thing about talking about being the best guy in your class and then going to university and finding out that you're not. You're like a
absolutely.
You're a big fish in a small pond, and I absolutely think that you've got to be broken down to be built up.
Yeah, I think it's like how you set out the kind of company, like you said, and Satellite Soda, it was kind of like a thing that they state when actually leave a comment and they probably moderate. And I think YouTube is, people will tell you suck, but then I think there's just a lot of hatred on it. And I think with Vimeo, it's kind of like
the opposite,
the complete opposite. You're told to sort of play nice or whatever. Even when you leave a comment, it says like, "Okay, now play nice," or there's like a tone of voice in it which I suppose doesn't really encourage that.
I mean, Vimeo for me is, I'm not very much part of the Vimeo community, I guess. I'm more part of like, it offers great video streaming. It's very high quality compared to YouTube and things like that. I mean, I love Vimeo for that, and I love discovering work through Vimeo, but I'm not very much part of the community.
But I think you are like, I mean, I definitely found you, or know of you through Vimeo. I think you're probably more active than some of the people who are active in the community on Vimeo, but just through sharing your work and stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But it's funny, I'd never really considered Vimeo that being a negative thing. It was something I kind of always liked about it, but then you're not.
Well, I mean, if you compare it to YouTube, then it's the best ever. But if you compare it, it's just a different forum. I mean, it's just like a different place to be. If you want work to be critiqued, I think you should put it up there and
for critiquing.
Yeah, because it can be, and that has to come. I don't know. It has to come from within you as a creative person to be wanting to seek that out. I don't think you can have that imposed upon you because you're probably not going to be ready for it.
Yeah. It's funny when you do see like a negative comment on Vimeo, and it might even be a little bit constructive, or just the fact that it's not someone going, "Hey, nice work, man." You're like, "Oh my god, someone's saying something bad about it." The worst I ever saw was on that video, the reject. We won't talk about it, but the rejected video for the Late Night Work Club. That was like proper like OK magazine, like Heat magazine for me. I was like proper like going back to every day to see what else, how the argument had developed and that. And
was there an argument? I didn't really follow that very much, but
it was people being really offended by the content of his video.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that perhaps the kind of content that we put up is not really that controversial.
No, absolutely.
I think if you want to put subject matter up on Vimeo that deals with hot button issues, you will get, contentious conversations.
Well, Scott put up the feminazi stole my ice cream thing. Scott Benson, for people at home. He put that up and he had to turn the comments off because people who didn't agree with it
what was his comment?
Sorry?
What was his comment?
He had to turn them off.
Right.
Because he was finding people actually created Vimeo accounts specifically to hate on this video. Wow. What video was it again? Sorry. Feminazi stole my ice cream. And it's kind of just a critique, of male rights activists. Right. And it's a pretty dark corner of the internet that sort of hangs out in those forums and that world. They just it's a dark place, and Scott very eloquently sort of commented on it, and then it blew up, and he had like a lot of people not from the Vimeo community commenting on it just to bring the darker corners of the web to his Vimeo page, right? And he just turned off the comments because it was. A lot of people asked him to turn off the comments, actually. Really? People were like, can you turn off the comments? Because this isn't a constructive talk about what we're talking about. So, I don't know. I don't know how we got on that topic. But it did relate to what you were talking about with Chris Young's Late Night Work Club film as well. Which, it took us off guard. When he submitted that film, and he was the first one to finish as well. It was a pretty difficult pill to swallow, I think. Yeah. But I respect him as like a filmmaker, and I respect his decision to go that way as well. Just not something we necessarily wanted to be tied to as creative people.
So are you? How long have you been based in the UK for now?
It's almost 2 years, so I'm on a 2-year visa to do whatever I want.
Okay. And that's how it works, like if you're Australian, you can get a 2-year visa?
Yeah, if you're under 30, you can do a 2-year visa. Okay. So that's, I'm coming to the end of that now. And it's either I'd have to work full-time somewhere, or I can go home and do my own thing, so... Okay. If working full-time is kind of, it's not my ideal sort of thing. So you kind of get stuck doing the work that freelancers don't want to do sometimes. Right. And there's definitely positives, but it's maybe a little bit outside. I can't take 4 months off to make a film for no reason. Right. They're not so accommodating of that.
So you're going back to Australia.
Yeah.
And what's the plan?
At the moment, it's still up in the air a little bit. Maybe by the time this goes to the internet, I'll figure it out. But I'll probably be living in Sydney, and I'll probably be working in some capacity with my friends at a studio called Mighty Nice, who one of my favorite places in Australia. And it was a big, I worked with them just before I came over here, and they're part of Nexus Productions here in London. Oh, okay. They're partially owned by them, and Darren Price set up the 3D department in Nexus originally, and now he went back to Australia a while ago to start a studio in Australia. And he is just a very level-headed, very creative guy. He's a very collaborative director as well. And I learned a lot working with him, just creatively, and also just how to be a professional, sort of nice person. Like working with him was like, you can be a director and I can aspire to be someone like you and have your own business and hire people and pay them well and treat them well and things like that. It's a very positive atmosphere there. So.
Oh, cool.
And also it's a weird thing, like when I was a kid I was really into this book called Bottersnikes and Gumbles because my dad is...
Buzz what?
Bottersnikes and Gumbles,
right,
and
okay.
it's like it's an Australian sort of mythology kids book, and Darren... No, I was really into it, and the only reason I got to read it was my dad was a teacher librarian and he brought it home, but it's been out of print for like 20 years or something. And I got to work at Mighty Nice and we're working in a commercial. And he's like, hey, have you ever heard of Bottersnikes and Gumbles? And I'm like, yeah, man, that's like my favorite kids book. And I've got this photo of me being a 7-year-old, like dressed in a Bottersnike costume that we made for like this book club, book week thing. And you know, I sent him this photo and he's like, yeah, we just bought the rights to make it into a series because it's my favorite book. And so hopefully we'll be making that into a TV.
Oh, that's wicked.
Yeah,
that's
it's like
so
this
cool.
weird, like, you know, in the same wavelength. That stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And what's the animation industry like in Australia generally?
It's interesting. It's not as I don't know. I have like conflicting ideas about it. There's lots of like super talented people, and me coming up through that industry was really interesting because it meant that I got a lot of responsibility early on that I wouldn't have got if I was in a bigger place like London. They would have put you in a slow track to sort of being promoted.
But they had some fairly big studios. Disney did a lot of their sequel films over there.
Yeah, and that got shut down. So there's a lot of good 2D guys that then moved into games, and then game industry shut down around the GFC. I think we had 10 major studios in Brisbane where I lived, and all but one of them shut down in a year. Like it was a big, you know, and that means there's like 700 people who do what I do, floating around with families and no jobs, and so I've always like tried to make sure that I don't, based on like getting burnt a lot in the industry, like I try to make sure that I don't rely on any company ever to support me and to make me safe, you know. So, and it's based on, you know, coming up through the game industry shutting down, and then another TV studio that I worked shutting down and worked for shutting down, and so I'm
There's
kind
a
of
bit of a trend here. Is it maybe something to do with you going and working in these companies?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I'm joking.
No, I'm just very. I mean, it's kind of informed the way that I work now. Is that I have my own studio and like I work for people and I work with people, but I don't let. Like I was working at Nexus for a long time, and I wanted to make sure that if you only have one client and then they lose work, then you're screwed because you don't have any other clients. So I had to make the concerted effort to go out and find other clients. Even though I had this client and they had work for me, I made an effort to go and talk to other people. Yeah. We were running out of...
No, we could.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're going back in...
December.
Okay, so maybe by the time this comes out, you'll be enjoying the warm weather. And we'll be all freezing up fucking nuts.
No, well, yeah, hopefully we'll be going back for Sundance in America. So I'll be freezing in that from photos I've seen.
Right.
But maybe I won't. I don't know. See how much it costs. Because it's a terrible time. Like I moved back to Australia and then a month later go back to America. It might be expensive.
If you got into Sundance, wouldn't they pay for you to come over or anything?
I don't think they'd do that. I don't know. I've got this. I've never had the opportunity to go to a festival before, so maybe.
I know people who go on world tours with their film, man.
Yeah.
Always
I don't know how much of that gets paid for by the festival.
I think some festivals, maybe they're just picking festivals to take them away, but I know people have been to China.
I'd like that list of festivals.
Yeah.
So but you enjoyed working in London?
Generally? Yeah, I love London. I think the best thing about London is being surrounded by people who do what I do, and they, you know, they just do their own thing. Like I think in Australia, like the big goal is to like earn money from what you do, because that is like almost unthinkable, is to have a career in animation. That's incredible. Whereas here it's like you can have that, and then you can also take a different route, which is make your own work, and then sometimes work for people, and sometimes make your own stuff, and work directly with clients. And maybe it's different when I get back to Australia, but definitely feels like a different attitude here. Where like I would like, the first thing I did was sitting next to a guy called Felix Massey who makes amazing films.
He's incredible.
Yeah, he's incredible, and he's like a director at Nexus now, and he was a director at Aardman. But you know, he just makes films in his own time, and that's not something that anyone I knew in Australia did. They, you know, I had a couple of friends in Adelaide who make Capiano, and they do that, but that's like a lifestyle decision. Like that's like that's what you do. Then it's like you don't earn money, you make films. Whereas people here, like they freelance and make films, and like everyone I was working with had films that they were making, or had made, or you know, and had just like a giant portfolio of personal work. And I was like, I don't have any of that. Like, maybe I'm allowed to do that. Like that was a big shift for me, just to be surrounded by people and go to the pub and like drink with people. Like, oh no, I've seen your work, I've seen your work, I've seen your work, and then you're like, man, what's stopping me from doing that? Like that was a big shift. Once I moved here, it was like kind of just opened that door to me, like as an idea.
Oh, that's interesting and nice to hear that you got that from London.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a lot of frustrated energy. And then I just realized, this is why I'm frustrated, is because like I'm not doing what these guys are doing, which is making my own stuff, which was good.
Cool. Alright. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap it up.
Was that 3 hours? Did we get to the 3 hour mark?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to do a trilogy.
A mini series, a weekly podcast with Alex.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, guys. No, it's been nice.
Bye, everyone.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye. Toodaloo.